Welcome everybody to the December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Norton Planning Board. Just to get everybody going here, this is a hybrid public meeting, so members of the public are welcome to participate in person or remotely. In person, we are at the Norton Town Hall at 72 East Main Street. The meeting is also available via Zoom using the Zoom link available in the meeting agenda or meeting ID 638-929-1060. There's also a phone number available should you need that. The meeting will also be available on Norton Cable Access and the Norton Media Center's YouTube page after the conclusion of the meeting. For future sessions, please feel free to email questions for the board ahead of the meeting to town staff. Paul DiGiuseppe, our town planner, is seated 2 seats to my right. So with that out of the way, I'll call this meeting to order and dive into our planning board business and policies. Paul, I think you had passed around one update from regarding recent state changes, correct?
Yes.
Could you just give just an update on how that affects what we should be looking at and when we should focus in on more?
So this, I don't know, okay. So there was a change the state made just recently that affects the expiration, essentially, of different types of permits, including special permits, site plans, variances. And what it's essentially doing is it's granting an extension of projects that were approved between January 1st of 23 through January 1st of 2025. So normally your special permits have expiration dates. So any special permit that fell within this time period now gets an automatic extension. That they don't have to go in front of the planning board, ZBA, or anybody. It's under the guise of economic development. So most of the permits that the town authorizes will be subject to these extensions. So I will be in the the coming weeks looking at the special permits and site plans that this board approved during this time frame to see which projects potentially are affected by it. Not really aware of any that are lingering. Most of the projects that you approved had moved forward, but we still want to capture. There's some that haven't, and I'm sure, while I wasn't here, that were approved that might not be, but just so we know, because sometimes, as you know, when a project doesn't initiate within 2 years for a special permit, it expires. This now says that if it falls within this time period, now it gets added time.
Would we have to notify anybody if you did find something?
That's a great question. Do we need to notify? At this point, I want to know who it is and what project it is, and then we'll figure it out from there. But it might make sense to do so.
So Brandon, can you mute yourself?
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
And Paul, do you see, do you think this is a one-time thing, or do you see this being additional things that the state's going to look at for the overall expiration, like forever?
That I don't know. I don't know what I haven't heard anything else that's in the works at this point. So,
Okay.
but they've been proactive lately in the last few years. So.
Okay. Just a reminder, we'd ask anybody on the Zoom call who's not speaking to please mute your line. If you are not able to mute your line, the host will mute you. Thank you.
That's Nancy.
What were the dates again?
It was June 1st of 23 January 1st of 23 till January 1st of 25. So 2-year period.
So anything in the last 2 years, basically.
No, my question on the notification was that
I'm not sure if we're in the mic, so.
And so the question on the notification, you just got to find out what the impact is before you can really speak to that?
Right, we just need to see because if they've built it
fair.
or started construction, then it's no longer applicable.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Paul about that? Okay. In terms of bills and warrants, I do have 3 bills that I'll pass around here in case anyone would like to take a look. We have a whopping $8.99 for Staples, $29.50 for Verizon, And then a Weston and Sampson peer account. Again, Nancy, please mute your line when you're not speaking, or we will have to mute you from the host end. Thank you. And then a Weston and Sampson bill, which is out of a peer review account. So again, that doesn't come from the town of Norton budget. That is an account that is funded by the applicant. And when there is no longer a need for the applicant to use it, then we would see a motion to release anything left in that fund. I would expect to see that related to this project, maybe at our next session. So.
99, is that from Staples or for Staples?
From.
From. Could be either.
Okay. So I don't think we have any minutes to approve at this session. So with that, we'll move into the public hearing section of our agenda. The first item is special permit approval and site plan modification to SP-15 for 233 West Main Street with the owner applicant Joe Tavares. They're seeking to reorient a 4-unit multifamily building. Paul, I'm not sure if you know who is looking to present on this, if they're here or joining us virtually.
Well, I see Mr. Hanson is here.
Daniel Campbell, he's on.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mr. Campbell, if you can unmute and go ahead and present, please. He's saying the room is muted again. He's commenting in the chat. If you can just take a peek at the... Did we mute? I know we had issues with the crosstalk. Is it this? Okay. See if you can unmute now. I see you coming off mute. Do you want to just make sure we can hear you?
I can hear the board. I just wanted to make sure that because we couldn't hear whether or not it's the first public hearing up.
Yes, it is you, and you're ready to go, and we hear you fine.
I
Thank you.
apologize. Daniel Campbell, Level Design Group, on behalf of the applicant. So we're here this evening for 233 Main Street, West Main Street. It is a continuation, so to speak, of a public hearing. We had a site plan review, which was issued last year, 2023 at this point, and we had a variance which was issued for the property at 233 West Main Street. So the approved site plan looks like this. Essentially, it's 4 units directly next to each other, shared driveway, bioretention basin, septic system in the rear with the associated grading. The application before you is a modification of that site plan, and it was determined by Mr. Di Giuseppe and Town Council that at the time we also should have received a special permit. We didn't, we had followed guidance, but we're back this evening to also obtain that. The project in front of you, quite simply, is they want to separate the 4 units into 2 units and 2 units with a shared common space between. Essentially, they'll be connected by a porch. The driveway entrance is in the same location. The driveway exit is in the same location. The driveways themselves are slightly spread out, and these 2 spaces are moved slightly to the north. Septic system in the same location. All of the landscaping is proposed to be the same as the approved plan. The approved landscaping plan, as I said in my narrative, we're going to use the landscaping plan because it's planted islands for the most part. We're just going to move the landscaping in accordance with the new plan. So that's our request for this evening. As I said, we were granted site plan approval and variance associated with the project. When a building permit was applied for, it turned out that we also should have got a special permit for the project. So we're back forward in front of you tonight. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the project as a whole. I'm sure many of you remember it from when we were working on it through 2023.
Yes, and just to confirm, this is for those thinking about where this sits, this would essentially be on the
Somehow
property
the
where
room
the
is
old
muted
fruit
again.
stand is. Sorry?
I think you just said we're muted again.
Please correct one technical issue that I'm
No,
seeing.
it says offer standing clear of oak and bank.
Okay.
Sorry.
And
And
just
now I
to,
can hear you.
can you hear us again?
I can, sorry
Okay.
about that.
And just to restate, this is the property where the old abandoned fruit stand is, right on West Main.
Okay. Chair, sorry,
That is
Chair.
correct.
Can we get a minute for Ben to straighten that out? He knows the problem, why it's
Sure.
auto muting. We're getting comments that it's
We'll
muting
just take
out.
1 second to
It's
fix the
Zoom
technical
doing it.
glitch, everybody.
Would you say about the quick meeting?
You know, I think it's synchronous, every time the corner of oak.
That's right.
and bank.
So what did you say?
I jinxed it.
I tried to find wood, but I did.
Okay, I think we should be good now. I'm just gonna wait for a thumbs up here before I do anything else. I'm gonna get thumbs up from you, Mr. Campbell, so thank you. And just to restate, this is the property right at the corner of West Main and Oak where the abandoned fruit stand at one point was. And if you wanted to pull up, I think either, any of the site plans, your choice. I know that in the initial site plan review, for anybody who wasn't on the board at the time or has forgotten, I mean, all the other applications that we had, is that the preference from an engineering and design perspective was to stay away from the back part of the lot because, as you described it, there's a septic system back there somewhere and you don't want to touch it.
That was the idea, correct.
Okay. So I'll turn it over to board members if they have any additional questions. Again, this was something that there was site plan approval for, but they're asking for a modification to that as well as a special permit.
Mr. Chairman, you said they did get site plan approval before.
There was a previous site plan approval for the old plan, which had everything in a row, not with the V.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool.
There was site plan approval and there was also a variance issued for the number of units on the lot to match or mimic the existing +1.
Well, the variance isn't from us, so that's,
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm just the permitting that's in place, that's all.
yes. Steve?
Yeah, before the meeting, I looked up the dimensional requirements, and I just got note that they did get the ZBA approval for the undersized lot. So that part's fine, but in our dimensional code, it says in a residential zone, you can only have one building per lot. And the proposal now is to split it into 2 buildings. I don't know if that goes against our design bylaw.
Okay.
I can show it to you, I sent it to Tom already.
Okay, I think I know which reference you're speaking to. It says only one building per lot, basically. It's fairly plain language section of the bylaw, yes.
Yes.
Would this be viewed as 2 separate buildings if there is a connector of a porch?
So I can answer that. The intention of the project, we do have a separation in the buildings from the angle standpoint, but it has been confirmed that as long as there is a porch, a physical structure, which you see in this location, connecting those 2 sides, that it is still considered one building.
Thank you for the clarification there.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Mr. Campbell, I was just wondering, is the main genesis of making this change just so you don't have to do sprinkler systems? That was my guess when I saw this.
Sorry, is there,
The question was whether the change is driven to try to
It's just
avoid sprinkler requirements?
completely curious.
no, the change is purely to make the units, one, a little bit more saleable, but two, a little bit more conducive for the neighborhood. Having a little bit of relief, which was a conversation during the initial planning board hearings, which is why we staggered the buildings front to back. We're looking to add a little bit more relief by changing that front so that it's not sort of one massive front of the building.
Additional questions from the board?
Yeah, to go along with what Alan is saying, if it is connected, there is a sprinkler requirement. If it is disconnected, there is no sprinkler requirement.
I think because the dwelling units are attached to each other or something.
But if they go with the argument that the porch is the connection,
It's one or the other, so I think what you're saying, Steve, is if it's one building, then it's 4 units and it would need to be sprinklers. If it's 2 buildings with 2 units, then it would be below the 3-unit threshold for sprinklering, is that,
yes.
okay? I guess that would be a question about whether our rules would be different than the fire department or building code rules, and I'm not sure if, Mr. Campbell, if you can speak to that, if you're prepared to at this point, but.
Sure. So the sprinkler as a whole, in a 4-unit building, per your regulations, a sprinkler is required unless the building is separated, so to speak. So from a fire code standpoint, there can be a firewall between each one of the units and never require a sprinkler, though your requirements do require sprinkler over 3 or more, excuse me.
Okay. And Paul, I forgot to check with this. Is this something that fire has weighed in on from that side?
They have, we've had meetings.
Okay.
The fire department was there, but I'm struggling to recollect what the outcome of that was. But we had our pre-application meeting.
Okay, I think, understood. I know that in other projects, even when structures have been detached, there has been questions about whether sprinklering is required. So that was why I was, one party didn't proceed in the way that I would have expected if things are laid out how they're being described, I guess, at some point in the last 5 years. But, Rob, sorry, yes?
Forgive the obvious question, are sprinklers planned anyhow?
We don't know, because we haven't gotten that far necessarily. It is being reviewed by a fire protection engineer, which was the question of the fire department at the time that the pre-application hearing took place. The fire protection engineer has weighed in on different methods of fire protection throughout the building. And because we're not through this public hearing process, I don't believe that the owner has gone further in that.
Understood, thank you. And Paul, in OpenGov, it does show that the fire department approval is in process. So if we can just check that box, and if we proceed, we can potentially proceed with fire department approval. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. Do we have additional questions from the board for Mr. Campbell or anyone else? Otherwise, I'd go to public comment or any other comments.
Yeah, the connecting porch area, is this gonna be like a concrete pad laid out, closed in type of area, or is this just like a wooden deck placed next to the building?
Good question, I appreciate it. It is not just a concrete pad. They do intend to have a roof area. So essentially it's a breezeway between the 2 buildings. As I said, making that more of a courtyard between the 2 buildings rather than in unusable space. It's not intended for trash or anybody else. It's intended for a pass-through, true porch area.
Who has access to the porch area? How is it accessed between the buildings, is there a lobby on the bottom floor of each building, or?
So it's wide open. It's wide open to the air from the front. So if you were on the site, as you see, we've got a grass area in front of the porch, and it's wide open front to back.
But is there a plan for it to be doors into those interior 2 units, for lack of a better term?
There is not.
Okay.
It's a shared space.
Okay. Additional comments for the board, otherwise I'll go to public comment. Okay. And if there's anybody here who'd like to come up and speak, I ask you to come up to the podium here to my right. And if there's anybody on the Zoom meeting who'd like to ask a question, ask you to direct those questions to the board, and we can either answer them or refer to the applicant if there's clarification is needed. I ask that anybody joining virtually, if you'd like to speak, to please use the react function in the Zoom meeting and quote unquote raise your virtual hand. So that way we know you're waiting to speak and I will call on you. So with that, I'll stop talking and see if any of you wants to raise their physical or virtual hand and come up and speak here. Okay. Not seeing anybody at this time. But if anybody needs to find the mute button, please again just use the react function. Mr. Campbell, are there other reviews in process with any other town boards, conservation, or anybody else?
No, sir. As I said, it's hopefully a minor modification, and then the issuance of the special permit as we discussed.
Okay. And is there anything further that you would want to add prior to us moving toward a motion to close the public hearing?
No, not unless there's additional questions, but I appreciate it.
Okay. Additional questions, comments?
A motion to close the public hearing for SP 15 with the associated site plan modification.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion from Alan and the second, I think it was Eric by a nose.
It's not important.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Again, when we close the public hearing, we will not accept further comments or questions from the applicant, from members of the public, or from anybody else. Okay. So on the motion to close the public hearing, I'll ask that all in favor please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. And now I'd ask if anybody is ready to move forward with a vote on the application itself, or whether we feel we'd like to continue that to a future session, if there's anything that we wanted to review.
Would you like the first motion to be, define this as a minor modification?
I'm not sure if is that necessary since it wasn't a special permit?
Well, you would need to approve a special permit since there wasn't one. You could technically do the site plan as a minor modification, but that
Because
probably
the site
isn't
plan
very
really
relevant
doesn't
since
matter.
it already was noticed as a public hearing and
The point of a minor modification is you don't have to notice. Since they already noticed because of a special permit, then moot point.
Still two motions of site plan and special permit.
Correct.
A motion to approve the special permit for 233 West Main Street.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion from Alan and a second from Laura. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve the special permit? Okay. All in favor of approving the special permit, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to revote that. I forgot to make it with the condition of fire department approval.
With fire department approval?
I believe that's what we said.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to do a revote on that, to include fire department approval as a condition. And would you also want to include standard conditions?
Please.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So approved with
Thank you very much.
conditions.
We appreciate your time.
We're not done yet.
Special permit.
Alan, did you want to make a motion on the site plan?
So moved.
Seconded.
And is that with, I would recommend that we do that with standard conditions and any other conditions that were included in the original site plan.
So moved.
Okay, does your second still stand?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to approve the site plan with standard conditions and any other conditions which were present on the additional application? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we are approved. Now we're all set.
This time, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Okay. Next item on our agenda is special permit SP-14, going down in numbers. This is for 68 Plain Street. The owner is Gail Domenico. The applicant is looking to have horses on the property here. Paul, if you don't mind, just to give a quick overview of the project and why they're here looking for a special permit relief.
So the applicant who's looking to, I believe, purchase the property, correct, is interested in having horses there, but horses have been on this site for apparently many years. We've never issued a special permit for it, so when they contacted me about being able to do so, we just said, well, you just need to come forward, apply for a special permit, because this is under 5 acres in residential 60, so that triggered this need for a special permit. So the applicant's here.
Okay. I'm not sure if you want to come up, if you want to say anything else, or if there's anybody else you'd like to speak on your behalf. But it's up to you. If you'd like, I'd ask you to come to the microphone, please, so other people can hear you.
Okay.
Because the Zoom meeting is getting fed from the room microphone, so if you don't have the microphone, they can't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I closed on the property on Friday.
Come a little closer to the mic.
Yeah, just tell us who you are.
Okay, my name is Cynthia Marie, and I just purchased the property at 68 Plain Street in Norton. And it's a lovely place. It has been a horse farm for about 20 years, and we just want to make sure that we can bring horses back to the farm. So
Thank you.
we're just going to be living there too, so it would be in our best interest for it to smell nice.
Thank you.
I love small horses.
Okay. And Paul, anything specific relating to the bylaws or anything else that you think we need to consider as part of this application? I don't think we've had a horse special permit in my time on the board. I think we've had chickens, but we haven't had horses.
Probably before your time, but nothing specific to horses. And I do want to call out that, I see a neighbor is there who had issues, not issues, but raised a point about location of manure, which they're working that out. That was from the previous owner, so just trying to make sure everybody is happy and working together.
Okay,
But now, this is a straight special permit, it's the general conditions.
okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
No questions, comment is I really couldn't picture a better use for the property. I've been there many times before, it's a beautiful site, so it seems like a reasonable ask.
I just like horses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who doesn't?
Additional comments, questions? Otherwise, I'll turn to public comment and see if anybody else would like to speak. Laura, I saw you lowered your microphone. Is there anything specific or just stretching your arm? Okay.
Getting ready to vote.
Okay.
She likes horses too.
Okay. Any additional public comments, either virtually or in the room? Again, virtually, ask if you can raise your virtual hand using the react function if you so choose. Okay. And I do see one. The name in the Zoom meeting is William. I'll just ask you to unmute and just state your name and address for the record, please, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Francis, we can't hear you very well. It's very soft. Is your microphone
I'm speaking through a headset. Is this any better?
A little bit.
Okay, William Francis,
Much better.
6 Plain Street. Is that better?
That's better, thank you.
Thank you. So, I like the courses too, but I have some concerns. So, I take it's Mrs. Marie. Miss Marie is going to own the property and have her own horses, or is she going to have commercial business as it was before?
Okay. I can ask the applicant that question. Is there anything else that you'd like to ask the board at this time?
Yes, well, the question of cleaning up the property within a reasonable amount of time, because our property, it abuts the 68 Plain Street in the back. And if, if manure is left there, then it stinks. And as much as I like horses, no one likes to smell manure. And also, previously, when they had, someone was leasing the farm, we had some issues with some of the you can say teenagers or children would come to ride their horses and then also have their boom boxes down by the barn turn up so loudly that we could actually hear it in our backyard at a very loud volume. And that causes me some concern also. So this being contained so that it just be horses, there won't be, will be a riding school, there'll be just boarding horses, the indoor riding corral. Is that going to be utilized for riding, or are they going to use it for storage? These are some of the concerns I definitely have. I certainly would like to address.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Francis.
Enjoy, actually, we don't want to, we want the peaceful enjoyment of our property, which every property owner wants. So we don't want that to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I would say just to one point that Norton does not have a noise bylaw. So anything that, from a noise relations standpoint, that generally goes through the Board of Health for the Norton Division of Responsibilities here. Steve, you were going to make a comment?
Yeah, so what we're gonna approve, if we approve it, farming or agriculture, this is Mass General Law's definition, shall include farming in all of its branches and the cultivation and tillage of the soil, dairying, the production, cultivation, growing, and harvesting of any agricultural, aquacultural, floricultural, or horticultural commodities, the growing and harvesting of forest products upon forest land, the raising of livestock, including horses, the keeping of horses as a commercial enterprise, the keeping and raising of poultry, swine, cattle, and other domesticated animals used for food purposes, bees, fur-bearing animals, and any forestry or lumbering operations performed by a farmer who is hereby defined as one engaged in agriculture or farming as herein defined, or on a farm as incident to or in conjunction with such farming operations, including preparations for market, delivery to storage or to market, or to carriers for transportation to market. So this special permit would qualify all of that.
So the point being that the special permit would cover whether she wanted to use the horse recreational or commercially, regardless of the purpose. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Marie, if you'd like to speak and say whether you plan to do any commercial or not, you're free to. Otherwise, you can otherwise it's up to you whether you'd like to speak further or not. So if you'd like to come to the podium.
Does it matter either way, you're saying?
We're just asking. You can say, I'm not sure, if you'd like to do that too. If I just ask that you come to the podium so that we can hear you in the... I gotta make sure you get your steps in, come out to the podium, that's all.
Okay, yeah, let me just, so I'm a very honest person. I can honestly say that Rebecca, I'm just meeting tonight, who knows about horses, and Kathy, who's a neighbor who has 3 horses, And these ladies are really gonna educate me and school me. And as far as the plan for the property, it's definitely to board other people's horses and to give lessons. And as far as, noise and manure and all of those things, I will definitely be managing it. I think as a business owner, there's liability and safety concerns, especially with young people. So I think you'll find us to be extremely responsible. But I will be working with people that have worked with horses for years, because I know nothing about them. So, but it's a property that is commercial, and we would definitely be using it as a commercial property, but also living there. So it'll be a peaceful farm, I promise.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to speak? I do see Mr. Francis' hand raised again, but I'm just making sure that other people have a chance as well. Okay. Please, if you can just come up to the...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Al Critch, 42 South Washington. I just want to speak to character reference for some people that are involved in this that I know. This property was built 20 some odd years ago specifically for this purpose. It's operated there without incident that I'm aware of for the past 20 years. The people that I know, that I see are involved now, I don't have any problem with their capability or ability. This is what they do. They've been engaged in this type of stuff since I've known them. And they're very upstanding, straightforward, responsible people. That's all. Just wanted to speak to that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Paul, were you looking to... Okay. You looked at me, so I wasn't sure.
So it is a big step.
Okay. And Mr. Francis, I see your hand raised again. Is there any further comment that you wanted to ask for the board to check on?
Yes, thank you once again.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up again. I'm not sure if it's...
Is this any clearer?
It is, yes. It's still soft, but we can hear you and make it out pretty well.
Anyway, we want to be good neighbors, and we certainly want to.
I'm sorry, it's cutting out again a little bit.
Sorry.
Technology betrays us all on Tuesdays.
Raise the microphone level.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can speak louder.
That's good.
Is this okay? Maybe that's just too far away from the computer. But as I was saying, we want to be good neighbors, and we certainly would like to have good neighbors.
Turn your head.
It's still cutting out again. I'm sorry, Mr. Francis.
So, okay, let me try one more.
It works for like the first sentence and a half, and then it cuts out. I'm not sure if...
Apparently, I'm being instructed that it's my voice itself. So,
No, when you turn your head.
Turn your head back.
Turn your head back towards the mic, please. I think maybe that's the...
You lean in real close to the laptop. Sometimes if you're using an outboard mic.
Where's this address again?
okay, again, a very close-up picture of me. All right, so is this any better?
It is right now.
Right there, yes.
60.
Okay.
No, they're 68.
66.
He's 66. Which I don't show is next door.
It doesn't matter, he keeps doing this.
It's cutting out again. I'm sorry, Mr. Francis.
All right, I'll end there. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It was a great job, Jay.
We're trying to be some neighbors.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any further comments from members of the public here, either in person or remotely? Okay. And any further questions from members of the board for the applicant or for Paul in terms of statutes? Okay. We'd be looking, if there's nothing else, the next action would be to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
No idea how,
Second.
but that's
And we have a
66.
motion from Steve and a second from Rob. Again, closing the public hearing means we won't accept further comment or testimonies. Any further comments on that motion? Or is everybody ready to proceed with closing the public hearing?
She said 5 acres,
Yeah, maybe that is him and this is her.
Laura, are you ready to proceed?
because he said
Yes,
the back.
sorry.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So the public hearing is now closed. Do we have any additional motions?
Motion to approve special permit SB 14 for 68 Plain Street for farms, livestock excluding swine, horses, poultry, and rabbits if confined in cage over 50 on less than 5 acres.
Okay. And is that with any applicable standard conditions?
All standard conditions.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Rob. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. They are approved. Ms. Marie, Paul will work on getting the decision to you. It'll go through the town clerk and get stamped and the whole process after that, so.
Did I hear at the beginning of the meeting that a special permit is, you have to renew it every couple of years?
So the timing that we talked about at the beginning is when a special permit is activated, generally on like new construction, if you don't use it within 2 years, then you lose it. But clearly this is a permit that you will be using the minute a horse shows up on the farm.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna be a concern, I don't think, so.
Thank you.
You're gonna have horses
Thank you.
sooner than 2 years, right?
Yes.
So we're good.
Thanks, thank you.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
So the final item on our agenda, Paul, is just a summary of the December 4 MBTA Community Open House event that we had here. So if you just want, I think, do you have a presentation that you wanted to run through, correct?
I do, I have a short one.
Okay.
This is just to go over the results of the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, here we go. And so I just wanted to again, show the summary. As you know, we had a mapping exercise asking people where they would like to see that MBTA zoning district and put it out wherever you'd like on the map. We also had comment boards. We had probably about 30 people between board members and the public, and I think we had a good mixture of folks here. There were people I've not met before, and it's always nice to see new folks, and it was great to see some old folks, not old folks, but people who tend to be at town hall more. I just want to quickly go over, you can see the outreach we did for the event. We tried to really boost the numbers up. I wish we had more people, but we had what we had, which is pretty typical even when we did a lot of outreach for the master plan 4 or 5 years ago. But we sent direct emails to people, we sent direct Facebook emails to people who are friends of the planning department's Facebook page. We posted it on different Facebook groups, and thank you, Rob, for posting it on Norton Neighbors. We dropped off a flyer to about 40 different businesses and community groups around town. And you can see the rest of it there. I don't really want to spend too much time on that, but we had 3 clear winners from the event. The 3 were Norton Glen at number 1, Mansfield Avenue North, and then Wheaton College. You can see on the screen there what some of the reasons were. I took those directly from the board. In some cases just edited it down, but you can go online. I took photos of everything as it was written. So, and this has all been sent out to the public as well, so the public can see all of this information. So these were the top 3, and then we had a number of other areas that received votes. They weren't you know, they were pretty significantly fewer dots, but we wanted to record everything for the record and be transparent. And so we had those there, as you can see. And then there were some people who wrote, if you didn't place a dot, why not? And you can see the responses there. There were 3. Wish we had had more comments on the board, but again, it is what it is. It's good information that we receive from the public, and I appreciate everyone coming out and providing their thoughts and getting a chance to talk with people. And I think we had good conversations. And that's all I wanted to go over. And January 7th, your next meeting, we will start to dive into the results. So I'll have a little bit more information for you, but I would say focus on some of these areas, and we'll start. So your next meeting, will start to hone in on those specific parcels that you would like to see. We will also be emailing the public again. We want to, we'd like to have a big turnout for people to come in and help give us feedback on where they would like to see those parcels specifically.
Yeah. It's additional continued data from members of the public. We got feedback from our public hearing process. The first time a little bit late. We got feedback at town meeting and the process around that. This is continued feedback about if this happens, where would people want to see it? And their other feedback. I mean, the comment, we don't want it at all, does not surprise me whatsoever on the board. And then it's a piece of how the public feels.
I was curious about Earn It. So
I
they
think I need
can
to
earn
think
their
about that
dots,
one
but
more.
they came all the way down to town hall to write down that they were going to put up dots.
Oh, they
So
are,
I just had to laugh at that.
Well, again, we wanted to make it clear when people came in that they didn't have to, and if they didn't want to see this, that they didn't have to put it on there, but we really, again, it was important to hear what their reasons were.
I do see a message in the chat asking if we can hear people. I don't hear anybody in the Zoom meeting right now. So if you want to try muting or unmuting your mic or raising your hand virtually here, let us know. For members of the board, anything further that we wanted to add in terms of?
Chairman, I have 2 points.
Sure.
Okay. One, I hadn't, as luck would have it, and I didn't coordinate this or know it until I read this, actually not until today. Sorry. I have, those PPTs I was putting out. The last one that I put out, what it's up to, is essentially this. And so what I'd like to do is just, why don't I forward it, you guys can send it out. I don't think it's by itself the solution to what you're looking for, but it can be taken apart for the artifacts and actually the effects. I did a lot of research on those sites too, so.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to share with Paul, I know he's been looking at what parcels comprise the different areas that were dotted, for lack of a better term, and how the math would work out in terms of meeting the state requirements in those pieces, but.
No, I'll give it to you.
Sorry, we're having another Zoom issue here. Someone is trying to speak, so my apologies. I didn't hear the question. I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm going to provide to you the latest version. You know those PPTs I was doing?
Mm-hmm.
The latest version one, because it is essentially this. And so,
Okay.
And then also, I did a lot of research on these things before I put them into a
Okay.
presentation. So why don't I give you what I have, because you can leverage it. I don't think my PPT in itself is going to be your answer. Like, you won't be able to say, oh, homework's done, but you could utilize,
Okay.
we can pick it apart, take artifacts out of it.
That's fine.
It can be
That would
useful.
be great.
It's work all the way down a path that you have to go. Save you some time.
Yeah. Okay. And did you have an additional point there?
Yeah, I had one other one, and I do just want to ask this because Wheaton College got a good score, which I was thrilled with. But the reason I gave is because, and I'm the one that wrote that, because that ain't gonna happen. That was actually my comment, and I believe that. But then I heard there was information through the admissions office being given out that Wheaton's actually short on cash and in trouble. And is there anything about, does anybody in this room know anything to that effect?
I can't speak to anything to that effect. I know.
I'm just asking, does anybody here know
Yes.
anything to that effect?
I mean,
Any inside information from admissions, anything? If there's none, there's none. That'd be our
Yeah.
answer.
yeah,
Excuse me, my hand is raised and
Thank
I
you.
have
Perfect.
information.
perfect. I'm glad we can hear you now. And then we got the Zoom issue resolved. I think, Debbie, I know who you are, but if you could just state your name and address for the record in the minutes, please. It looks like you muted again. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, Debbie on Elm Street. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Okay. Well, Rob just asked a question, and one of the planning board members told me not once but twice that Wheaton was struggling, trying to persuade my vote. So that was disconcerting to find out later that that was an untruth. Number one. Number two, I'm just concerned what the real agenda is, that we keep going over this and over this and over this. We made our voices loud and clear at town meeting. We made it very clear again at the gathering on the 4th. And what do residents have to do to actually be heard by our planning board? That's my question.
I would
And
like-
concern.
Understood. Thank you. I would like to say that I think that we have heard you and we've continued to hear you throughout the entire process. And the entire goal of this session and everything else that we've done is to continue to collect additional feedback as we go. We are not discarding the feedback we got at town meeting. We are not discounting it because it was a few months ago. All of the pieces that we have gained throughout this process are part of how we will go about our decisions with this moving forward. So thank you. In terms of the specific note that you made, I'm not going to speak to that specifically. If there's anybody on the board who wants to speak to that, they certainly can.
Mr. Chair?
It was
Yes,
Miss
Laura.
Laura Gallagher Parker who said it to me, not once but twice.
She's looking to speak
So
now, so I'd ask you to please,
clarification on that, those remarks made to me that evening.
Ms. Winston, I'd ask you just to, Ms. Parker is looking to speak, I'd ask you just to mute your line, and if you'd like to raise your hand to speak again, please let me know, but I think I appreciate the conversation that we had at the event, and I look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Thank you. So yes, I did have a conversation with Ms. Winston. She told me the reason she had chosen the parcels that she did. We got into a discussion about all of the things that you need to take into account, and I pointed out to her 2 parcels that had previously been owned by Wheaton, one of which is 0 Mansfield Ave, the other is 0 Reservoir Street, both of which were sold to developers and have come before us for planned housing. So I asked her to think about it from a hypothetical. If Wheaton were in trouble and needed to sell property, to whom do you think they would sell it? And going into the myriad reasons why you would choose or not choose a parcel.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that.
Sure.
Okay.
The question I asked actually wasn't who said what, it was just whether or not, if there was any truth to the Wheaton, then since I told a number of people that's the ain't gonna happen choice,
Yeah.
I would want to be open about it if I gave false info.
Yeah. I mean, I think lots of
Well,
small
I'd
business
like-
colleges are
I'd like
struggling
to-
right now.
What about
so-
the insider person who works at admissions that she told me?
Ms. Winston, we just had
She
Ms.
didn't
Parker
address
speak to
that.
this point.
Yeah.
We just had Ms. Parker speak to this point. I'm not going to belabor the point. Thank you.
I could also just offer that the financial statements of most colleges are available to the public to review.
It's there.
Okay. So Paul, you mentioned that we'll have more detailed information on a parcel level. Is that basically what you're aiming for at the next session?
So, because of the fast nature of town meeting, we're gonna have to get selection of the parcels pretty quickly, sooner than later, because it's a May town meeting, so the spring town meeting is a shorter time frame than the fall. So, again, just look at those. Again, you saw the results, take a look at those results and then I would just suggest start looking at those areas to see where would you like to see it, but then as we go forward, again, starting on January 7th, working with the public, and we also have to work, we have 2 representatives of Select Board who've agreed to help, and I need to get a FinCom member, as we had talked about months ago, to get more cross. I'm sorry?
But you have 2 of them.
I haven't had confirmation from anyone yet on FinCom, but we'll get
It's
there.
an option
It's an
for
option.
them to participate
I needed to
in a
give them
closer level.
And I needed to get
I've
some
talked to
clarification.
people. I think there's been some communication, we'll make sure that.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out with them tomorrow, so we'll
Anybody
start-
from FinCom or anybody else is obviously, feel free to,
Yeah.
they can email you directly if they want to do that too.
Right.
There's nothing stopping them from doing that.
It's on my calendar tomorrow to reach out and get that going, and I've got more, I needed to give them some more clarification on meeting schedule, so
Yeah.
that's taken care of, but we'll meet again and hopefully have a lot of people showing up and weighing in.
And I know for the past session, you had like a town meeting is here, warrants close here. Do we have that scheduled yet, or are you still finalizing?
I'm still working on it, but
Okay.
we do have, the only confirmed dates are, its town meeting is May 19th, and then I have to look back on my calendar to see when articles need to be submitted. That's the placeholder language, and it's February, so.
I'm not surprised.
So,
I was gonna assume that we would need to have submissions by February or at the latest early March,
Yeah.
without knowing anything.
so it'll be a selection of parcels, and we'll have to re-examine some language too
Yes,
that was discussed, so.
definitely.
But I'm mapping out a time frame for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, yep.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, if this is the time to do it, I guess not immediately, but before the next meeting, I'll submit my parcels selections for what the selections were for the Glen, Great Woods, around Wheaton, whatever.
I know Paul's already been looking at some of that and doing the math on how much acreage each parcel has, but doesn't hurt to send it along.
Are we gonna be planning on redoing those at the next, that's gonna be the big intent?
I believe that's the intent, yes.
I didn't hear.
Reviewing the parcels specifically that you've pulled from the feedback is the next session.
Right. Again, they picked the areas, so it's up, you all, this body, honing in on the parcels, the specific parcels.
Paul, can we also be sure we know what schools are affected as far as eligibility?
Sure.
Also, Steve, just for conversation, I can tell you the stuff that I'm looking to give to Paul, just to pass on to him, it's awfully close to what you've been thinking, talking about in planning. So you might find what I've got on paper is pretty much what you have. I'll forward you a
That's
copy of
fine,
it. I'll forward you a copy of it, you can check it too.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further based on what we took as output of the community session, or anything else for Paul?
What I will do is,
Alan, I saw you come towards the mic. Is there anything else that you were going to add, or are you just stretching your back?
I got a motion on deck.
Okay.
I've got a second on deck.
Okay. Is there anything further anybody else wanted to bring up in the open session?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second. Second from Jim. Anything further on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you, or have a good night.
Thank you again. That was very nice.
You're
of you.
very welcome. Enjoy.